Hey guys, this is Brent. So a buddy of mine last weekend getting some equipment ready for the field for hay season, and noticed he was very knowledgeable about lubricating his equipment. So it really sparked an interest in me to talk about grease. So behind me here I've got 8 different kinds of John Deere grease. We're going to talk about each individual one and their different uses and applications. And I know a lot of people use one type of grease on every piece of equipment for every application. So hopefully after watching this you can take a few tidbits back to your operation. If this video seems to help you, please subscribe below. Let's get started. Okay guys, so before we get started, I just want to point out a few things here. This was the setup that we were using when working on that equipment. And as you notice, we got 4 different grease guns here, all labeled with different kinds of grease. So this is just a great practice here, you know, when you have those different grease guns of different kinds, to label those out just like you would your gas can, so you're making sure getting the right grease in there for the right application. Another neat thing that we saw here that we were using is we had these quick couplers on here, and we've taken this one off and cleaned it up for the video, but just so you can see how this works, right here you push down, you get the grease, get it there towards the grease zerk that you're looking at, push this down, push it up onto the grease zerk, and it pushes out those teeth, and when you let off, it pulls those teeth in and grabs onto that grease zerk, really holding it on, getting the grease in there and letting it not all leak out, as we know that when greasing equipment it's dirty and nasty, and if you don't have it on there correctly, the grease squirts out the side. Guys, with these really helps to eliminate some of that. Now this looks big and bulky, and it is kind of cumbersome. They do make different sizes and different styles of these, but a quick coupler system for the end of your grease gun is definitely something to look into. So now guys, let's start out and let's talk about our 4 different kinds here of multi-purpose grease. So here we have the 4 John Deere multi-purpose greases, who have been ordered from most expensive to least expensive. One of the trends you'll notice is the most expensive is extreme duty synthetic, going down to least expensive is a plain lithium general duty grease. So starting here at the extreme duty, some of the things we'll point out, it's like we said, it is extreme duty synthetic. Looking at its properties, it says excellent performance in high and low temperature, food grade, dielectric, and biodegradable. So being synthetic and having that certain thickener gives it all of these properties. Now if you look down here in applications, it tells you farm tractors, combines, construction equipment, so on and so forth. So that is a very important, it's going to be used in those heavy duty applications, still being multi-purpose. If we go down here, we see it has an NLGI grade of 2. Now what that is a consistency grading system put out there by the NLGI, which is the National Lubricating Grease Institute, and they put a chart out of those different grade systems and the consistency. So this is going to be a 2, and on the consistency chart it rates as a normal grease consistency, which its food analogy is about like peanut butter. So if you were to open that cap, touch that grease, it is going to have that consistency of peanut butter. Now that's going to be the normal consistency on most of these greases, except for a couple that we'll show you here at the end. Now some of the other things to look into on these greases is going to be your temperature rating. Now this said it was excellent in extreme cold and extreme heat. So as you see, we're from -45 to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. So very good on those different ranges of temperatures, excellent for that high pressure or those high speed bearings, those certain situations that are going to create those certain different temperatures there. So moving on here, next we have our SD polyurea. So the first thing you notice is this is not a synthetic grease. This does use the polyurea as its thickening agent. If you go on down, it says it's still for severe duty, long-lasting grease for high temperature and extreme pressure applications. Now if we go down, we see again tractors, combines, construction equipment, so on and so forth. So this is still going to be for all those certain applications, just not for not as extreme conditions as this one here. It's also not going to be that food grade oil. It's not as dielectrically insulated as the other. So some things, just some of the differences here. If we go on down to our NLGI here, it is still rated from the NLGI, and our rating here on the back is still a 2. So still that peanut butter consistency, that normal grease consistency. Now the one thing that we need to look at is the difference in temperature. On this grease here, we have -15 to 380. So you think, oh man, it's not as, it's not as high and not as low, and that's right, because it's not an extreme duty. Still going to cover that wide variety of temperature ranges, still going to be a great multi-purpose grease, which is why this grease is actually our most sold grease and probably the most popular in the ag industry. So moving on from this, we go down to our HD lithium complex grease. Now Lithium grease is going to be the most popular grease probably sold nationwide. It's the most known, most popularly used grease among all people. So as we go down here, we see it's heavy duty, long lasting for high temperature and extreme pressure application. So if you notice, it does not say for severe temperatures. So it's going to be, you know, not as heavy as this grease here as far as the components that make it high temperature resistant and low temperature resistant. But as we go down, again, farm equipment, implements, trucks, construction equipment, so on and so forth. So still, being that multi-purpose grade grease, going to be used for all those different applications. And once again, if we go to the back, our NLGI grade again is 2, so still again that peanut butter, that normal grease consistency. But if we look at temperatures here, we're still at -15 like the polyurea, but we've dropped to 350 degrees at the high end. So probably better for the slower moving parts, the less extreme temperature situations, but still a very heavy duty high grade grease here. Now, moving down to our plain lithium grease. First thing that you'll notice, no HD, no extreme duty, no severe duty, just plain lithium grease. And as you notice here in the description, it says general duty grease for average temperature and average pressure applications. So this is not going to be a grease that you want to use in those heavy duty applications, those industrial applications. This is going to be your plain Jane price fighter grease that you're going to use, you know, say around the house, around the farm, on lightly used applications. So if we go here to the back, once again, NLGI grade 2. If we look at our temperature, -30, so we have a really good cold rating, but we've dropped a lot in the high temperature area there, down to 290. So guys, that just gives you a good wide range of the multi-purpose greases here. You've seen the differences from the most extreme down to the general purpose. So from here, let's talk a little bit about our special purpose grease. Now moving here to the special purpose grease, we have 4 of the 5 John Deere special purpose greases. The other one that we don't have here, that we don't generally use much of, is the golf and turf cutting head grease. It's literally designed and built from John Deere for those golf and turf reel mower applications. So, you know, those require a lot of grease and a lot of maintenance, so they do have a grease specifically for that. For the purpose of this video, we have these 4 here. Now these 2 at the end, the HD water resistant, the corn head, we actually had in the grease guns last weekend when working on that equipment. But I actually want to start here with these 2, because as you can see, these are going to be our calcium sulfonate and our HD moly. So this has, you know, 5% moly in this one, 3% here. These are going to be those greases that are intended for that really heavy duty construction or metal to metal contact, when you're really worried about shear. Maybe you have those articulating tractors, those loaders that are doing a lot of really heavy work, putting a lot of pressure on those loader pins. These are the greases that you really want to look into. So starting here with the calcium sulfonate, like we talked about, it has that 5% moly, which gives it that extra shear resistance. It says down here, provides excellent moisture and load protection. So that load protection is huge when we're talking about shear resistance for equipment used in extreme duty applications. So we go on down here to application, we can see it's used for construction, forestry, mining. Now mining is one we haven't seen yet, heavy duty farm and industrial. So by putting that in the applications, you know that this is a very heavy duty grease meant to really protect in those high load applications. If we go around here to the back, we can see again, we have that NLGI rating of 2, so same consistency as all the others. And then our temperature rating, we have -25 to 300 degrees. So what you notice there is not as high of a temperature rating as maybe you'd be thinking, as this grease is going to be used mainly in those slower moving applications. Like we said, those metal to metal surfaces, those loader pins, those articulating tractor pins, things that you're really worried about that shear rate. Now, this one we don't sell a lot of, just going to be a pricier product, you know, has a little bit more of that moly additive in it. But the one that we do sell a lot of is this HD moly. So this is actually going to have 3% moly. We go down here, it says heavy duty lithium complex grease with 3% molybdenum there. So molybdenum disulfide. We go down here to the applications, we can see excavator pins, fifth wheels. Now this is a huge one and one we haven't talked about yet. Ball joints, chassis, chains, cables, and conveyors. So still a very heavy duty, you know, for those different metal to metal applications. Like we talked about there, the fifth wheel hitches, as that's very common in the agriculture community and other situations there. But again, a very good grease for that shear rate with having that 3% moly. Go around here to the back. we do have the NLGI grade 2 again, same consistency, and our temperature rating, -10 to 350. So not as heavy on the low temperature, but the high temperature a little better. Still a great heavy duty grease, like I said, for those metal to metal contact situations. So those two there, very similar style, just a little different in their rating systems. So moving on down here, we have our HD water resistant grease. So this is going to be the grease, of course, used in, just like it says, water resistant situations. It says heavy duty lithium 12 grease for machines and equipment used in high moisture conditions. Now, does this mean this can only be used you know, on boats or boat trailers, things like that? No, not at all. But any of those applications are going to be high moisture situations. Just like here lately, we've had a ton of rain, we've got a lot of wet fields, a lot of tractors driving through wet and muddy fields, high moisture situations. Maybe this is a good application to be using this in certain times, and then going back to, you know, maybe your other multi-purpose or special purpose once that moisture, you know, has receded. So if we go down here to applications, farm equipment, implements, lawn and grounds equipment, marine, so boats, boat trailers, machines used in high moisture environments. So it's exactly what it's meant for, guys, exactly what it says here at the top. If we look here at the back, again, that grade number of 2, and our temperature rating of -18 to 143. So and so as you notice, a little different range there in temperatures, as that's actually going to be rated there in Celsius. But if we, you know, to get the better grasp on it, we're looking at 0 degrees Fahrenheit to 290 degrees Fahrenheit. So not really looking into that extreme cold temperatures, as you're only at 0 degrees there, but still a very good grease for that special purpose. So keep in mind, these are intended for those specific uses. Last but not least, we have our corn head grease here. This is going to be a polyurea thickened grease that is a superior corn head lubricant. Now, it says right here, it's used for corn head gear cases, irrigation system gearboxes, and gearboxes requiring NLGI 0 grade grease. So this is going to be a 0 grade grease. So it, if we look here at our chart, has more of the consistency of a very soft or like a brown mustard. So what this grease is intended to do is to go into those different gear cases, especially gear cases that may have the tendency of leaking. It goes in once the gearbox is in use and heats up. This grease actually thins out to almost a gear case oil consistency, and then once it is in a state of rest, that thickens back up and keeps this oil from leaking, or this grease from leaking out. So great when in those leaky or older gear cases or in the corn head applications. We go here to the back, like we said, the NLGI grade of 0, -20 degrees to 350. So a really good range of temperatures there. We talked about being in the gearboxes, you know, high speed, high temperature situations. But once again, guys, special purpose, used for those specific applications. So guys, I by no means am an expert in this grease field, but I hope that from what you've seen here, you've gained enough tidbits to take back to your operation. Hope you've liked what you've seen. If you did, hit that subscribe button below. We'd love to hear from you, and leave us a comment. We'll see you next time. Greases and their applications. So, hey guys, this is Brent. I was with a buddy of mine last weekend getting some equipment. Golly, greasing his equipment. So today, oh, dang it. So that's sparked by the NLGI, which is the National Lubricant Synthetic Grease. If we go down here and look at its uses, it says, that's not uses, at its property. It says multi or general purpose here, not multi, it's just general purpose. So I hope this video helps you and adds something to your operation here. So subscribe to this video, and we're going to do it again.